A lot of people are under the idea and impression that the media kind of really hurt the Xbox One at the start of this current generation. And I think that I was on that train for a long time as well, and I know I'm guilty of that and saying that there's a such thing as media bias and things like that. The reality of the situation, however, is actually much more frank and forthright, which is that Microsoft really did themselves no favors with the Xbox One to begin with, and they're doing themselves no favors with the Xbox Series X. All the criticisms are 100% deserved, and anybody that's praising the PlayStation 5 is only doing so because Sony puts the focus on the games themselves, and that's something that Microsoft has really failed to do. Everything to them is about services. It's never about the games anymore, and this is really bad news for Xbox, but tremendous news for PlayStation. Hey, what's up everybody? Crapgamer here with Crapgamer Reviews, back with another video. Thank you so much for checking it out. I really do appreciate it. Please like, share, subscribe. I would appreciate that as well. It helps out the channel and it means a lot to me personally. You know, a lot of people want to know how you can support a small, rinky-dink channel like mine. A simple like. That goes a long way, honestly, and maybe take a minute to consider subscribing. You can also share out the video, hit the bell so you're notified of all the content as soon as it drops. I do daily videos, so keep that in mind. And a shout out to all the old subscribers, new subscribers, everybody in between. You're absolutely incredible, and I appreciate it. There's no channel without your support, so thank you so much for all the love and support, and it just really does mean the world to me. So with that being said, obviously, when you go back and you start thinking about what the Xbox One versus PlayStation 4 to sort of build up and kind of what happened, I can remember just being really excited about the Xbox One, right? Like, I didn't come into this generation realizing just what, you know, next generation was going to mean to me. I just thought, you know, better looking games. I was just kind of this ignorant person on the whole subject. I didn't have any kind of frame rate. I didn't have any kind of resolution in mind. It was just I was going to get better games that weren't possible before and upgrade like always. And I was a big Xbox 360 fan. They came out with, you know, Killer Instinct. They showed that off, and they showed off Sunset Overdrive and Quantum Break, and they announced Halo and Forza and Dead Rising 3 and Rise and, you know, Titanfall, and I spent so much time with Titanfall. So they realistically had the games that I wanted, and they had, you know, even if I didn't like the name or the actual box shape itself, you know, they had some things that I was definitely interested in, the games being the foremost thing. Sony realistically didn't. I wasn't a big fan of Killzone, and so Killzone didn't mean much to me. And that was basically it, you know, how I feel about Knack. And then, you know, Infamous came out like a few months later, but again, you know, that's a pretty good series, but that's not exactly something that I was going to buy a PlayStation 4 for. So, you know, I kind of went with Xbox, and I was really surprised because it did seem like a lot of people and a lot of big media outlets, IGN and, you know, Game Informer and all these other ones, were really kind of taking it out on Xbox, and I felt like maybe a little bit unfairly, right? And maybe you can make the case that early on when Microsoft was trying to quote-unquote take gamers' rights, I think that there was backlash for that, and I think it was rightfully so. Like, for me personally, I liked some of the ideas that Microsoft was having, and now, funny enough, you know, 7 years later, everybody seems to be willing to give up all their rights to play, you know, Xbox or whatever. You know, they really push that DRM stuff. You know, anytime you have, you know, Game Pass, that's purely DRM. You know, we're kind of in this digital situation that's realistically heavy on the DRM, but you know, some of that stuff was well warranted. You know, the backlash, the media sites, they want to preserve, I think deep down, just like me, they want to preserve that history, that awesomeness that was gaming for so long, for so many people. And I felt like Microsoft was really kind of corporate, if you look back at it now, very corporate with what they were trying to do. And, you know, and that's why they probably seems like they weren't as welcome in the gaming community and the gaming world by large. And a lot of people are PlayStation fans. You know, let's be real. Sony has done things that, you know, Microsoft haven't done, and Sony's accepted for doing things because they actually take, it seems like anyway, and I realize that these are all just corporations, but it does seem like Sony takes a lot of what people say into consideration when they do things, right? Whether it be content first, whether it be exclusives, or whether it be, listening and showcasing what they've asked for. So again, one of the things that Sony does really well is react to what Microsoft does. Again, this is something that a lot of people are probably gonna, kind of understand. This kind of happens quite a bit, to be honest with you. You have Sony; they're gonna come out there and they're gonna do their thing, and you have Microsoft; they're kind of doing their own thing. But I don't feel like Microsoft has exactly the fortitude to sort of pave their own way. So what I mean by that is you have IGN, right, and they do a video about how Sony is promising more exclusives, and they're going to double down with the frequency of those exclusives, right? And a lot of Xbox fans take a little bit of exception to this, despite the fact that it's actually a pro PlayStation sort of situation with what they're talking about. Now, the interesting thing here is exclusives matter. No matter how many people try to dismiss them as not meaning much or not meaning anything, they 100% matter. Exclusives are a big driving force into who buys a console at launch. And the fact that Sony says they're going to have more frequent exclusives, and they're going to do exclusives, they're going to double down on those, and they're going to possibly even double down on the way that they buy studios and get content. And even if they have to buy it, whether it's timed or otherwise, I feel like that's an incredible thing for them to really come out with and sort of announce, and for IGN to really pick up on it and go, well, Sony's saying they're doubling, they're gonna make it much more frequent with the way they come out with their content. They're gonna even buy studios more so, and they basically only have this console that they're putting it out on. Yes, there is the stuff where they said, hey, they're gonna kind of dip their toe in the water by putting some first party stuff on PC, but the bottom line is, you're not getting that day and date stuff like Microsoft is doing, and that's a big problem. If you look at Microsoft, things really started to fall apart for them when they started doing the day and date stuff with PC, because it really makes it look like they don't care about the console as much as they should, and that's a real shame, because I felt like, in particular with the Xbox One X, it was a missed opportunity by Microsoft themselves to go out there and showcase what it could do. Give it some exclusive content, folks. Give it something that's not available on PC, and I still feel like that. You have the Xbox Series X coming. It's a hugely powerful console. Well, what the heck are you thinking? You're putting everything on, phones and PC and all this other stuff. Like, focus on the console a little bit first, and I feel like that will be ideally what will win people back to your console space, right? Like, I get it. People go, and this is Xbox fans that say this, well, console sales don't matter. Well, sure they matter. I mean, if you're a console gamer, do you honestly want to be matched up against PC players and phone players? Like, for me personally, I don't care which platform I'm playing on. If I'm playing a game, I don't want to be matched up against PC players. I don't want to be matched up against phone players. For one, I'm going to have a huge advantage over people streaming a game over a phone. For two, I'm going to be at a disadvantage playing against people on PC. Despite the fact that I realize that not all PC players use cheats and things like that, but a lot do. Okay, and that can ruin your fun as a game. I know, because it ruined the fun for Sea of Thieves for me personally. When you're playing up against people with invulnerability hacks and aim hacks, and they can sink your boat without even being 300 yards within it, that's a problem, and it takes away the fun. And I feel like a few bad apples spoil the bunch, and that's basically how I feel about that. So with less people buying an Xbox, who are you going to be matched up against? You're going to be matched up against people on phones. You're going to be matched up with people on PC. And that's not something that I personally want to see. So that's a bit of bad news. And again, every exclusive that comes to Xbox goes to PC. But every exclusive that goes to PC doesn't necessarily go to Xbox. So there's a huge set of hypocrisy that's going on at Microsoft right now. And it really shouldn't come as much of a surprise, because Phil Spencer himself is much more of a PC gamer. Like, if you ever do see him gaming, it's almost usually on PC, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I have nothing against it. If you're a gamer, you're a gamer. I think that's cool, but at the same time, I feel like, what you have to be able to do is cater to your core crowd of the console gamers. Console gamers are what make Xbox, in my opinion. So Phil Spencer's so preoccupied with winning over the PC crowd, because they screwed over the PC crowd years ago, that he's realistically losing console people like me. when a person like me, who was such a hardcore Xbox fan, who buys every Xbox game, bought multiple Xbox consoles every generation, 5, 6 360s, 5 Xbox Ones, I think 3 original Xboxes, I buy these things, and I buy every single multiplat on Xbox this generation. Right now, I do have multiplats on PlayStation 4 as well now, but I always bought them after I bought them on Xbox when they were like super cheap and on sale and stuff like that. Avengers is the first game that I bought on PlayStation this generation that was first, right? This is the first one that I bought on PlayStation, like a multiplat. And when a guy like me, who's that much of an Xbox fan and can play a better version on Xbox but would rather get the content first on PlayStation or get the content exclusively on PlayStation, that means Microsoft screwed up. People need to start holding them accountable. Anyway, there's no media bias. Microsoft is dropping the ball. I really feel like what Sony's doing is going to win them next generation in a big, big way. I, of course, will link this so you can check it out. But let me know what you think. Sound off, rate, comment, subscribe. As always, stay safe, happy, and healthy. Rack 'em up. Game on, my friends. Game on. Crapgamer, out.
Unscripted.